Hello and welcome. Bill Judge with Monkworks, the manufacturer of the 2.6 pound 30 amp generator for experimental aircraft. Runs off your vacuum pad, generally can run almost everything you probably need in your experimental plane. And I've been manufacturing this thing for about 4 years. And recently I got a phone call with a question that I've gotten before, but I didn't realize the root of the why the question was being asked. The question was, do I need a battery attached to your gadget in order for it to work properly? I said, no, you don't, but you might want one for your airplane. You know, if you want to run your gear pump, retractable gear, if you want to be able to start your engine, you know, those things require a battery. You know, the gear pump's going to pull more than 30 amps probably for a brief period of time. And if you don't have something to back up the 30 amps that this can put out, then the bus voltage could collapse. You know, coming down long final, you know, taxiing out, if you pull back below 1,000 RPM for any decent amount of time, the voltage is going to go to zero. I'm like, no, I get that. You know, there's times your device won't put out power, but my question is, does your gadget require a battery attached to soak up the ripple from it working? Like, no, it absolutely does not. Power that comes out of it's, you know, super clean DC, you know, made with modern power electronics. And so, well, why do you think you would ever be in a circumstance where your battery would disconnect? It says, well, the battery management system in these batteries will disconnect if they go over temperature. So if you're hot soak on a hot day and you know, suddenly your battery disconnects. I said, really? I have to do some more research on this. So the predominant battery out there is EarthX. So I gave them a call and said, what is the story here? Does your battery disconnect when when it's over temp? I said, no, it doesn't disconnect. Like, okay, when does it disconnect? If you discharge it too much, it disconnects at that point. But at the same time, it still can accept current going into the battery. So there's really no issue with the EarthX battery disconnecting for over temperature events. It starts to warn at 185 degrees Fahrenheit, but it doesn't disconnect. The only other reason your battery might disconnect is if you got a CAN contactor like this and it failed for some reason. I think these are generally very reliable. I've been flying my plane for almost 20 years and it's never failed in my plane. I used to carry one as a spare when I go places. I don't carry as a spare anymore because it just seems to be very reliable. So contactor failing, but the battery really is not going to disconnect. And then furthermore, if you're using one of the systems that I push in my electrical talks where you have a second battery, it's connected through a diode, that battery is probably always going to be there as well. You know, you could have a situation where your main cranking battery has a failure because cranking really beats up the battery. It decides to short through, and the only way you're able to keep your bus up is by disconnecting the battery, but then you would still have your secondary battery there. So you know, I really think that the concern of the battery disconnecting is pretty overblown. That risk is fairly remote. I still do maintain though that my gadget is the best out there for running lithium batteries because of the hard stop current limit, which none of the other devices on the market actually have. The other devices, they generally have to get hot enough for the current limit to kick in, which could be minutes into your flight. You could exceed the charging rate that's recommended for your battery. So anyway, all things to think about. But anyhow, I wanted to get that out there that the battery disconnect thing is not an issue with my gadget, but I think it's not an issue in general. You really don't need to worry about it. So thanks for watching, appreciate it. And if you have any questions about how the gadget works, more than happy to answer your questions. I'll be here. Thank you.